But we should be relatively close to be going into the match. All players are on server here. We do have CarlJr joining as we speak. We should be getting ready to go within the next 5 minutes or so, so not to worry. But Eirik, looking at these 4 players, I mean, again, not to only bring you in as a stats person, but what was with having already taken the expert's opinion on it, what is your opinion going into this, being along with myself simply a useless side better?
Well, talking about the mentality aspect here, you have maybe 3 of the most experienced players in CarlJr and Tween. They all played over 10 offline grand finals, so the stakes has been way higher there than they are in this match for them. And then you have DanikB, who has never been in an offline grand final and maybe never have proven himself as a really big event. I guess his most notable win is his E-Tech Mania win late in 2019. So that is something to look after. Is DanikB gonna crumble under pressure, knowing he's facing CarlJr and Tween, and of course also Carl? And I think Carl, like the Dorian Valet, is the underdog here. Like Kappa said, I don't think he's gonna be fast enough, and I think CarlJr will eventually take it. Just looking at his stats, it's unreal. He has 8.7 in average out of 10 points. He has won 76% of the rounds he has played in this tournament so far. Maybe that's because he has faced easier opponents than, let's say, Tween, Pack, and Novice, but CarlJr is my favorite here.
And Tween already with a 0.66, and then he presses the button God. Ready.
He's ready.
Oh my, I mean, Tween does have the world record here as far as I understood. I mean, it was something kind of going into this tournament, putting a lot of training in, and then seeing you've got a time, like I think mine was a 0.8 or something like that, and I'm thinking, I saw the world record as a 0.6, I was like, okay, you know, I can understand that. And then I see on stream one day, Tween has a 0.4, and I'm just like, I don't understand this anymore. I'm leaving. But I mean, so something I kind of wanted to ask the both of you before we kind of get into this match. You from your kind of outside perspective, Eirik, we do see that the stakes in terms of the, you know, say the prize pool might not be as high as some other major tech tournaments we've had in times gone past. But a lot of people have been speaking about this as being probably the most stacked tech event we've had in history. Although some of the major names didn't show up as what we would have wanted to, do you think that the stakes really are that much lower? As well, it might not be as much prize pool on the line. I mean, the kind of name and reputation almost is on the line, having so much such kind of harder competition this year.
I don't think this is the most stacked event ever. I think TMWC is more stacked. You had an offline final there. You had the World Championship title on the line. So I assume players train more than they train for this. But this is a really stacked tournament. You have more or less all notable names besides Kappa and besides Massa among the top players. And of course, once Tween shows up, once CarlJr shows up, once like Pack shows up, they want to beat each other. They're not like, okay, it's just a, let's say, an online event. It's not that important. They are competitors. They want to win. They want to prove themselves to be the best players. So the stakes are high, even though it's just online, if you want to say it like that.
For sure. And what about you, Kappa? I mean, would you say that as to how the players have prepared for this, that although the stakes have been lower again, that they have had, you know, not only the big names that they're typically used to going up against, but other names that could potentially threaten their position? Do you think that's kind of made them prepare a little bit more as to what we would expect from a kind of World Championship type event, or do you think the stakes still aren't high enough for that?
I think all of the players participating took it quite seriously. Well, with this worldwide situation, there's not that much to do, you know. And also, when you know that Carl plays a tournament, it really raises your awareness, you know. So all the players that want to compete with him have the chance, for once, because he, as you mentioned, he doesn't show up that often anymore in tech events, and he's also the last event of TM2 in tech. So I think, of course, it's hard to compare it with the World Championship because, yeah, that was the World Championship title on the line. But I think it's gonna be still a very prestigiously taken tournament, not like TMWC, but yeah, it won't be like there will be a value in the trophy. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we do see almost all of the players getting up ready here, and that is actually us getting good to go here as we're about to start off your second winner bracket semi-final. Of course, again, we will have the same format, of course, 5 maps, but we will not play the last one, which is once again Krompolc. We do have Cascade to start off with.
What a name, right?
Yeah, exactly. We do have Cascade to start off, Weird Flex second, Rise Up third, and Siphon Blur fourth. Now, something that I was kind of thinking going into this that I also want to pick your brains on, Kappa. Siphon Blur, we were mentioning, some of the players you were mentioning, Tween doesn't go for the little inside line, which was soft players can get a little bit of benefit. Now we're seeing that as the final map. Do you think that might cause some issues, as there's some techniques the other players can go for which will give them a little bit of an advantage?
Well, Tween doesn't have the WR there, but I think he's like 300s behind it with his slower line. So, you know, if he had taken that line, he would have had the WR with that. So there really is no issue in terms of his speed on that track. And maybe it is not his favorite track, I can tell, but he's still well capable of setting really fast times. But then again, in this field of players, it will be interesting to see. He needs to play fast, but all of them do.
For sure, but since we're just about to get started, we have just enough time for a side bet. Kappa, who's top 2?
Tween and Carl.
In what order?
Hello.
I'm gonna go with the alphabetical order. Carl,
okay.
Tween.
That's CarlJr, right?
Nah, I really don't know. Well, I hope it's Tween in first and Carl in second, but it will be close.
Yeah. What about you, Eirik?
Well, is Kappa talking about Carl or CarlJr? That's sort of an important factor here, because you have 2 players named Carl.
I'm sorry. Yeah, obviously meant CarlJr. But
Yeah, I will go
let's see.
CarlJr.
Oh, fair enough. I'll go for Tween and CarlJr as well. I'll side with the expert, but Carl here actually having some issues starting off early, just behind CarlJr. So heading up the field is Tween straight away on Cascade. Now again, we have seen a lot of issues for the players on this track. We'll get a little bit of a stat check as to see who's normally performing best on this in just a minute or so, but straight away we see Tween and Danik leading the field here, and by quite a margin, 1400s all the way back to CarlJr here in third place. That's going to be hard to remember, but first place here, Tween, just getting closed in a little bit by Carl here at the moment. It's getting closer and closer, coming up to this ending. Now we've seen a lot of mistakes from a lot of players coming through here. I think they all missed keeping the gear through there, but they all make it through this CP, no problem. Who's going to risk it most coming through the ending? Danik has more speed, but who's going to get the cleanest ending? Tween backflips into the finish, but they all finish cleanly, and Carl with a .795 finding himself all the way at the back. But what a round to start us off with, everyone within 0.2 of a second. But Eirik, will we get the stat update as well? I mean, what a round was that?
That's a really sick round to start off this match. CarlJr has won 12 out of 15 rounds he's played on this map, so that's a really solid there. But Tween was the fastest player on this map until today. Novice beat him with 1000 in the previous match. So Tween and CarlJr are the 2 names to look after on this map.
For sure, and we do see them side by side once again, but DanikB is taking the fight to them, having already won the first round here. A .56 is definitely a very strong time to be starting off here, and Carl actually himself is finding himself all the way down in 4th place here at the moment, so struggling to keep pace with these players already, which is certainly understandable. This is almost a Mount Rushmore of Trackmania here with these 2 players, and even DanikB to a lesser extent nowadays, of course. But Tween and Carl are side by side. How many times have we seen this over the years? 3,000 separate them in that last checkpoint, and now DanikB is in danger here as going through this long left-hander. Tween fails to keep the gear, so the other players will have some more speed, but Danik actually keeping the lead here from Carl as he does actually move a slight bit slower back, or further back here, but what a time there once again by Danik, going that little bit faster even. Tween does not finish, so that will be a lot of points lost for the Pittsburgh Knights player, but what a start for DanikB, and he's kind of throwing all of our side bets into the wind here.
That's the fastest time DanikB has ever done on this map, so he's really prepared here.
And as I said before the match, this is the only way for Danik to make it through, to handle those close rounds, because either Carl or Tween will be always there in every single round, and Danik really needs to get those 10-pointers. That means he has to be able to handle the endings of those tracks. And yeah, we also see that Carl, the French one, really isn't keeping up with his pace, which was kinda expected, so hopefully he can put up a better fight than he has shown so far.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we do see the kind of level which we're talking about here at the moment. It is keeping just as high going through this round. These players are on, again, fantastic times here on Cascade. We're seeing Carl having got a lot of points on the previous maps, as Eirik was saying, but it's not really translating here. But again, the competition is so much higher in this match. Danik, once again, just inches in the lead here going into this final section, gets a little bit more speed on that downhill than Carl, but Tween's risking it going into the ending as well. He's a little bit of a buddy hop there, but once again, such a narrow win there for DanikB, and this is a dream start there for the Czech player, who's had some issues, at least in TMWC, getting to the very top levels here, but he is double the points almost of Carl and triple the points of Tween in only 3 rounds, but an amazing start for DanikB. He really could not have asked for more, but all of these players have been pretty much within a 10th for all of these rounds so far, but let's see, it should only pick up from here. Tween only on 10 points out of 3 rounds so far. We'd definitely be expecting better. However, he does still hold on to 3rd place out of these players. Had to hesitate a little bit on his entry there, so he does drop a little bit of speed. Now back on the uphill, CarlJr is the one in the lead here, but Carl himself is now actually still in 4th place, but that little bit closer here, so let's see if he can be a factor here in this round. He will have to pull out all the stops here, but all players are within 1/10 of a second here. Tween and Carl battling side by side here. Tween goes for the inside line, Carl goes for the speed. Recovering very well as CarlJr, and DanikB also dropping a little bit further behind here. He is still on a fantastic time, but CarlJr and Tween are stepping up the pace. The gauntlet has been thrown down, but CarlJr is the one who is storming ahead here at the moment. Tween as again on a fantastic time, but can't keep up with the pace of Carl here as he looks to get a clean finish in here, no problem, and a 1:06.31 by CarlJr, and that is an incredible time by the 3-time world champion, and it's almost as if he's said to DanikB, I've had enough of you winning, now try and match that.
That's the fastest time CarlJr has also done on this map so far in the tournament, so it's safe to say that the level is pretty high here.
Yeah, safe to say business has definitely picked up, and with that, CarlJr brings himself within 7 points of the lead here up at the top, and Tween also struggling early on here. However, we have seen Tween occasionally having bad starts to matches, but maybe this track just doesn't suit him, who knows. Anyway, we move into the final round, which these players will play on Cascade at this stage of the tournament at the very least. CarlJr and Danik once again heading your field here. Tween following, but not following that far behind at all. Carl 2/10s behind, but at least if CarlJr had quite an issue transitioning down into that jump there, and does find himself battling with his namesake here, and finds himself a slight bit behind, but we've seen he had a very good end section to this in the last round, but we also see that the players ahead have a good gap here, so he's going to need to pull out a lot of stops here. What has he got left in the tank in this round here? DanikB up at the top, a very slender lead here. Tween trying to fight back, but Carl is just overtaking. He's cleaving through them here at the moment. Can he take Danik going into the final turn? A little bit of a wide line, but he will have speed with the downhill, and Danik gets an awkward ending, and CarlJr recovers in style to take once again another 10 points, and Danik drops even all the way down to 3rd. And what a round there once again. Might not have been as fast as the previous rounds, but that was a hell of a close one there.
Well, absolutely. The level is so high that you really have to perform a super strong time in order to get those 10 points. And Danik was able to do so in the very first rounds, but now he's making a little mistakes, and that allows Carl to catch up. Absolutely, 1 point behind.
But now we move on to Weird Flex. Now this is a little bit of a... It's not a map which the players have had as much trouble in the ending, but we've seen at the very least the races tend to be very, very close here if the last match has anything to go by. But I mean, going into this match, this map, sorry, Eirik, I mean, what should we expect from these players?
The funny fact here about this map in particular is that CarlJr hasn't even played this map so far in the tournament, so I don't really know what to expect from this map, but this is DanikB's best map, and out of the players in the semi-final, he has the highest average point score, 8.5 out of 10 points on this map. So maybe DanikB is gonna pull away and actually surprise people and knock down either Tween or CarlJr.
And with that funny fact, Kappa, do you think the fact that Carl hasn't played this map yet in this competition would have any factor whatsoever?
It honestly could play a role a little bit. I'm not sure if Carl played any practice matches, but I don't think he cares that much about it. So yeah, it can play a role, but then again, it's CarlJr.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. But I mean, we do have again the very top players here being displayed in this match, and you're seeing that with some top times and some top rounds here. But at times we'll be expecting this match again mid, maybe high 103s here. Maybe we'll even get some really sick 0.4s or 0.3s. However, we have seen some players really rocking some strong times here. But we'll start off with Carl here, at least see if he can actually keep up with these players. He is keeping close to Tween, at least in points, but not close in the rounds themselves. So he's definitely going to need to pick up the pace on Weird Flex here. Gets a little bit of a slower drift there going through and has an awkward exit, which will mean he'll lose some time. And Tween shoots up there to get in the battle with the top three. Carl definitely having some trouble keeping up with the top pack here, and it's only getting worse. But Danik had to release there, otherwise he'd have made himself part of that sign. Tween up in the lead here though. He has a good run here over CarlJr, but not as much speed on the uphill, but manages to drift a little bit less, keeping his speed going over this jump, and he has a strong lead going into this final section, does Tween. 0.2 of a second, that might be an insurmountable gap here for Carl, unless Tween makes a mistake. Danik a little bit closer to CarlJr, however, will maybe want to risk for the 6 points here, but it looks as if your positions are set in stone, and they are, but a great time to start us off by Tween at 103.6. And he is starting off as he means to continue for Tween, and finally getting himself another 10 points on the board. But how important would you say, Kappa, a strong start in a map is to get? How much would you say that would mean to someone like Tween starting this map in third, but straight away hitting off a 10 point on a good round?
Well, while I don't think Tween is that much of a momentum-based guy, I know this is one of his favorite maps. So just the confirmation of him knowing that he's good here and that he can also prove it in the live match is very good, since he was able to prove it already in the first round.
For sure, exactly there. It wasn't only a 10 points, it was a great time there as well, and you can see how comfortable he is, pushing the very limits of Weird Flex. And actually CarlJr making an uncharacteristic mistake there, just released his drift perhaps a little bit too early and made connection with the inside pole there. And now it's DanikB and Tween side by side, with DanikB with a little bit more speed, so move just about a car length ahead here. 0.4 ahead, but now 0.1, but DanikB with an alternate line will gain much more speed on the exit here, so looks as if he might have this in the bag. Tween goes for an inside line to try and negate the gap, but he will actually have to settle for second place here. But again, Danik matching Tween's 0.6 here and setting a great time of himself, and recovering from a kind of slow performance at the end of the first map and getting himself another 10 points to keep him in the lead of this match. But certainly, who would have thought DanikB would be the first in this match when everyone was thinking CarlJr and Tween? The only question was in what order. But another one of the questions to be asking here is if Carl is going to be able to have a factor in any of these rounds here, as he's struggling to keep up with the pace. And that's certainly understandable given the level these players are performing at here at the moment, and not many mistakes means not many points for Carl. But you just need to take it a round at a time, I guess, when you're in his position. He is keeping close to everyone else here. 1300s between all players at the moment. We're sticking with Tween here. He goes for a really inside line. Doesn't get a lot of the exit speed as a result. You see CarlJr shooting himself up to the lead as he takes maximum amount of speed from that corner, and he is on the uphill right-hander here, taking a lot of speed. And now DanikB and Tween switching back a little bit there. Tween with a bit of a slow kind of side to side there, but won't matter as much now. But DanikB is closing in on Carl, and he's taking a risk there, going for so much speed going through that section and trying to reel in the 3-time world champion. Has more speed coming through this jump. Is he going to risk it for an early finish? He will, but it's not going to be enough, and that is yet more 0.6s. That's one being driven by CarlJr, Danik and Tween, and really a top level being shown by all of these players here, exchanging 10-pointers here, and it is about as close as you could get for a battle up at the top. Both players have passed the halfway point here, only to 100 it is for finalists here once again. Tween having a little bit of issues in the points category here, only on 40, while CarlJr is on 56 here. Again, second place and first place will proceed forward into the winner bracket final to meet up with, if I remember correctly, it was Omnipots and Pack. So definitely a who's who is all that's left in this competition, but they will not be eliminated just yet, even if they do fail. But Carl has had enough of finding himself at last position here. He is going for it. He is finding himself battling for the lead here, being hunted down by his namesake once again, finding himself in second place though. Struggling to keep up with DanikB's pace now as this time, and finding himself in the chasing pack along with CarlJr and Tween. But what a close round between all four of these players here as the pace quickens going through this jump here. Oh, gets a little bit of an awkward angle on that quarter pipe there, and now it's going to be all to play for going into the final turns here, with CarlJr taking so much speed, but DanikB gets some more inside line, and now is Carl going to be able to hunt down DanikB in the ending? Danik just loses his speed and Carl's going to take it. Almost a carbon copy of that round with switched names there, but Carl does actually managed to take the 10-pointer there, and once again some stellar times being driven by the players. And you must be thinking, if you're Carl, getting a 0.8 and getting your great round and you're still getting fourth, I mean Kappa, that's got to be demotivating.
Well, but we were talking about it a lot before the match, you know. This is exactly what we expected to see. It's unfortunate for Carl, but he has his pace limits, you know? Yeah, pace-wise, so it must be tough for him. But what can he do? He just have to continue like that. But but he doesn't have too many chances in this match, honestly. But who surprised me a little bit is DanikB, even though he was amongst my top 4 players in the pre-tournament prediction. But yeah, he's facing Tween and Carl in this particular match, and he's doing incredibly well, setting such fast times. And he's also able to handle the situations with the most pressure. So yeah, if he goes on like that,
Tween makes a mistake from the top. Yeah, I mean, exactly as you're saying, DanikB's had a really strong performance throughout this map, but actually a little bit of a surprise here as we're talking about his pace limits. Carl actually gets the 10-pointer there with an even improved time himself of a 0.78. We saw mistakes coming out from all of the other players. I mean, I'm certainly sure they weren't feeling sorry for him, but at least that's a good end to that map for Carl, and he is still in the game. It's not as if he's too slow of a player to where he can't have an impact, but he needs to. He is playing at his own limits here, and at the moment he is finding himself quite far behind the safe zone here at the moment. But I mean, were you expecting, Kappa, such a large gap between the second and third places here, with DanikB and Tween being 22 points apart?
Not gonna lie, Tween is underperforming a bit. But yeah, it's super hard to get those 10-pointers because, yeah, you saw Super Carl getting 10 points for 0.78, but that was the only round where that would be enough to get the 10 points. So that just shows how fast you have to be to get a good amount of points. And Tween has been consistent, but he hasn't been setting the top times yet. But yeah, he needs to make a difference now on empty point.
Yeah, for sure, and we have seen that he does have the world record, and it looks by he's one of the only players which is set at a 0.4, or maybe some of the players have even had trouble getting close to that. I mean, unfortunately, so many players train offline nowadays that is really hard to tell, but Tween is the world record holder here in Rise Up. But does him being the world record correlate to him having good performances in this map, Eirik?
100%. This is Tween's best map. He has 8.8 average in points here. That is a lot higher than any other player in this match. The next one is CarlJr 8.1 Tween has actually played, let's see, I think it's 13 rounds and he's won 10 out of them. And I believe he has the 4th fastest time in the match as well on this map. So this is a really important map for Tween.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly as you said, really important because, of course, Tween now being 22 points behind DanikB and 23 points behind Carl is there, of course, having or CarlJr, sorry, is there, of course, having a sick battle up there at the top. This is the time where Tween needs to turn it around, of course. If this isn't a strong map for DanikB or Carl, this needs to be for Tween. This is where he makes the gap back up. And we're seeing earlier on, the pack is splitting up a little bit here. Carl's made a mistake originally, and CarlJr finds himself a little bit further behind here, but the risk coming out from both CarlJr and DanikB means Tween loses a little bit of his time, but CarlJr gets a little bit of airtime coming through that jump left-hander there, and now the battle is perhaps only exclusively with DanikB and Tween, but CarlJr, you can never count him out. 0.2 of a second behind here, and now Tween will be looking for the 10-pointer here, but DanikB got much more speed going through that section. Now it's only going to come down to the final turn here. Is he going to be able to hold on to 10 points with Tween with much more speed coming through the jump? DanikB got it though with a 103.8, and that's 2 103s being driven here in match. Definitely a strong winning time there. 103s is what we'd be expecting from a winning times here, but DanikB again seems to be starting off these matches or these maps extremely strongly. It's going to be the question if he's going to be able to keep up this kind of pace, but he is setting this match ablaze for sure. But Tween at least gets himself that little bit closer to CarlJr, and another thought I would say it'd be those two players competing for who actually gets a spot in the loser bracket, so to speak. But checking out round number 2 here, we'll check on CarlJr as well. As we saw, he was maybe a little bit struggling to keep up with the pace in the first round here. So let's see what he can do in round number 2. Starting off a 104.1, still a very strong time, of course, but when you're up against opposition like this, you need to find your extra gear, and Tween looks like he's doing so in this round, and Carl gained a lot of speed here. He's reeling in the Slovakian here, and so close side by side as they're going through here with DanikB, but DanikB loses a little bit of speed, and now Tween does have a small lead going through here, but really risks it. So close to the hole going through that section, but does have a little bit of advantage going through here. DanikB now finding himself in 3rd position. Tween up at the top here and gets a really good slide going through there. CarlJr drops a little bit of time. Tween just survives the ending, and what a time once again, but that was a code brown by Tween there. Any lower and he would have been smashing into that finish, but what a round there by the top, and that's a really tough pace to keep up, wouldn't you say, Kappa?
Yeah, you are absolutely right, and the comment in the chat from Super Carlo says it all, you know. Yeah. Crazy boys. So we are witnessing a very high level match, and I mean, I'm fine just cussing it, you know. I did a good decision of playing.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that. I mean, it does give players like me, especially looking at this and seeing what your very top level players can actually do on these sort of rounds. Of course, when you see the best players driving these maps, it really is a wonder to be able to see, and I'm glad we're able to share that with all of you today. But now CarlJr has had enough of getting 6 and 4 pointers on this map. It is time for him to take up the torch and run with it, as he does take quite a strong lead going into this fast left-hander here. It's a very difficult one to do cleanly, but all players here are at the very top level, so I'm sure they will manage it without fail here, as they do in this round. But CarlJr on an even faster time than what Tween managed in the last round here, going into the final corner here. Will he manage to keep it? He does clip the little hole there a little bit, or the bump there, but rounds off of again another fantastic time here, a 103.8, and that will get him a 10-pointer. And most importantly, DanikB only gets 3rd, so that means he'll be leapfrogged, and CarlJr will move up to 1st place and within 1 round of finalist here. But Tween definitely going to need to pick up the pace, and he's only got 2 rounds in what was his fastest map here. 69 points for Tween, and he really needs to turn it around in these last 2, as I was saying. Otherwise, of course, if Carl wins this round, or CarlJr, sorry, wins this round, he's going to be finalist. If DanikB wins this round, he's going to be putting himself within 1 round of finalists. So, Tween now battling with Carl here, which might be feeling a bit better on. Carl's had, again, some trouble keeping up with the pace on this map here. And DanikB risks going through there, takes a lot of speed, also travels a little bit more distance. That's why you're not seeing him getting that little bit closer to Tween here. CarlJr finds himself quite far behind the pack here, having a bit of struggles this round as the Canadian. And Tween this time. A little bit of a sandwich here, but Carl Jr. gained so much time going through that section. He has taken the gloves off. He is going for it, coming through the ending part here, but Tween should have enough of a lead to keep these 10 points here. Safes it a little bit going through this final jump, and he will take it, a 103.9. And he does take it, but Carl Jr., despite being 2/10 behind the main pack there, does eventually overtake both Carl and DanikB, and that must be gutting for Danik. Moves down to 4 points there, whereas he could have kept hold of that, but both Carl and Danik will be within one round of finalist here, but Tween did win the round. Finds himself on the 9 point at the very least here, so even if he does win the next two, he will get the slap in the face of the 99 points here. Nevertheless, Carl Jr. needs to finish the round in the top 3 here, so just needs to avoid a mistake, which he is also good at doing, and he will find himself as a finalist here. DanikB up on 91 here, needs to win this round, and he's at the back of the pack here. He needs to have a Carl Jr.-esque mid-round here to be able to catch up with the rest of the field here, but Tween and Carl battling up at the top here. Tween needs to set top time after top time to keep the momentum going here, and what a section there from Tween. And Carl Jr. also makes a little bit of a mistake here and once again falls, so as long as the other players don't make mistakes, this will mean that Carl Jr. will not be finalist, but he's catching up on Carl here. But the battle at the top is between Danik and Tween, and Danik needs this 10 pointer and he needs to go for it in the final turn. He's diving in, but Tween has a better line and a better jump, and Tween's going to take it with another 10 pointer. A bit of a slower round coming out from the players, and Carl is denying Carl Jr. there, the finalist. So surprisingly there, we don't have any finalists moving into what should be a final map here. Tween within 11 points here, and what a comeback on that map. So really showing how you said, Kappa, that was his favourite map there. Or yeah, it wasn't his favourite map, pardon me, it was his best map, sorry.
Yeah, that's probably a question to Eirik, but yeah, that was one of Tween's favourite maps. And I'm not surprised that he performed like he performed, but now comes Siphon Blur, and as you mentioned, Tween doesn't go for the inside line here, but apparently no one does, so it's not even bad in after all.
Do you think it is a technique which people might go for in the very highest stake, as in when you do have the very best players coming against you and you need that extra 10th or 2? Do you think that's anything we might see from Carl Jr., as he was definitely fond of the inside line, as we saw previously?
I don't think Carl will go for that. It's way too risky to be worth, but I think the French Carl could go for that. I honestly also saw a practice match of him, and I know he was doing that line, and yeah, he's obviously the one who needs the extra hundreds the most, so my guess is that only the French Carl will go for that inside line, but I can tell for sure that Tween won't go for that.
And Eirik, we saw a sick battle between both Tween and Pack on this match, this map previously, but with Tween matching kind of Pack's pace on here, do you think that's something we can expect, that he'll be able to defeat his other opponents here, or do the stats show is different?
Out of this, I have Carl Jr., Tween, and DanikB fastest time, and Carl Jr. is the fastest time in the match here, and it also has the best average of 8.9 out of 10, so that's pretty high. This is actually Tween's worst map looking at the average. He has 6.9 here, but now he has the momentum, so maybe that is going to be a benefit for him.
And we do see, as exactly our expert predicted there, going for the inside line there was Carl, and Tween perhaps trying to respond and get those extra hundreds back. Does make the mistake, or perhaps got a unfortunate no slide going into that long right-hander at the start. So that's going to be him straight out of this. But again, even if he won the round, he wouldn't be finalist straight away. So this at least allows him to get within 1 round range, even if he gets the 3 points here. But Carl, having taken the inside line at the start here, has only taken that gap and extended it further, as we see Carl Jr. having some issues going through that section. Does drop a tiny bit of time here, but DanikB is hunting down Carl, and he is getting closer and closer. As long as he keeps top 3, DanikB will be finalist, and Carl Jr., as long as he finishes, he'll be finalist. But both players having some trouble through this midsection, and we are seeing Carl rolling back the years and dominating this round here. Ooh, gets a little bit of a hesitance going into the final turn there, but 102.29 is definitely a respectable time there. DanikB and Tween finishing quite a little bit further behind, some mistakes maybe coming out a little bit there, but That is Carl Jr. finally getting another 10 points, but we do have 2 finalists. Who's going to take finalist round number 1, do you think, Kappa?
Tween's gonna win the round, and we are gonna get 3 finalists.
Oh, he's thinking it's going to get spicier here. I'd certainly hope so as well. Carl once again going for the inside line. You can see how that benefits him. Even going through this long right-hander, you can see how he does just have a car length ahead, and Tween already makes some sort of mistake there. Didn't catch exactly what that was, but now Carl is in the position of having to deny 2 other people here, and they are right beside him this time. No big advantage to speak of like there was last round, but we did see problems for Carl Jr. and Danik through the midsection of this track previously in the last round. Have they recovered from that? They're definitely on faster times here, but they do still have the obstacle of the original world champion to go through here. But Carl Jr. shoots past him, and DanikB also risking it, going for the inside line here. They're going to be almost side by side going through this final turn. Danik goes for so much speed going through there. He overtakes Carl Jr. He's going to come into the final 2 turns here. He has the inside line, but also Carl diving up, trying to risk it, but DanikB has the speed, and he's going to take the first place. A 102.1, and DanikB is going to be your first winner bracket finalist, and that's going to mean Carl Jr. or Tween is going to be going down to the loser bracket. And
look at those times.
What a time coming out from them, and coming with a .17 is Carl, and having to settle for 3rd place. But Tween, as a result of having a poor performance there in that round, will not be able to get finals, and now has to win this round, or has to hope Carl's going to deny Carl Jr. once again here. It's really been a nightmare for Tween so far, but is he going to be able to wake up from that nightmare? He is in 3rd place here in the moment, but again, he does have backup in the form of Carl here, but Tween once again makes a mistake. Are we going to see Tween joining Novus in the loser bracket as well? I'm sure some of the loser bracket guys will have their eyes wide open looking to see who they could potentially be going up against, but Carl is not done just yet. All of those many years of experience really coming into play here now, as he has to battle against the man who kind of took his name, so to speak, and made even a bigger legacy out of it. And he is showing him how it's done here. All he just needs to do is keep it tidy, going through the final turn here, and he'll be able to drag this match out even further. But Carl Jr. has a lot more speed and dives into the ending, but we will go further. Tween once again will not be finalist here, still finds himself on 99 points here, but Carl Jr. not been able to close it out yet. And I mean, it's been spoken about at length, some players having kind of been jinxed by the finalist for so many rounds. Do you think it might be starting playing Carl Jr.'s mind that he's been denied so many times, Kappa?
I don't think so. I just know how mentally strong Carl is. And yeah, the real slap in the face is the 99 pointer for Tween, so it's still a mental advantage for him. He has 1 more attempt as a solo finalist, so yeah, and he's in the lead right now. But it's honestly so cool to see that the French Carl has not given up yet, and he's putting a super good fight on this track.
Oh, Carl. Yeah. And again, I mean, while it might not be the pressure to actually keep up with the finalist, we're seeing that he not only has Tween to contend with, but he has the extra player there. Carl performing extremely well on this map, it must be said. He has been so very close to denying Danik, and he has denied Carl Jr. on more than 1 occasion here now. And now he unfortunately cannot deny Tween from getting finalist, but that 1 extra win here could put him perhaps back into this match. But Tween's just going to snipe it at the end with a little bit more speed, and that is once again a good round for Carl here, and the only player who's stayed extremely consistent throughout throughout this whole map, it must be said. Carl Jr. making a mistake there, but now we have a double finalist. And again, as I reiterate so many times, how many times have we seen these players go toe to toe when the stakes are the highest? But we now have the 2 finalists here, and now Carl is going to have to pull out all the stops here to be able to survive any further, as he has potentially the 2 most storied names in Trackmania to contend against here, with Tween and Carl Jr. here. Multiple event wins between them, but Carl is certainly no slouch in event wins himself. is finding himself here in the lead here, but he has made a mistake. He is out of the round. This is it, as exactly Kappa says. It's going to be CarlJr or Tween moving forward in this round, but Tween makes a mistake. Just trying to take that extra 10% and does crash in the right-hand side here. This is potentially GG here. CarlJr, though, just needs to keep it nice and easy going through the remaining sections of this track. He looks like he's perhaps seen that he is already with a strong advantage here, and should be able to safe through the remaining sections of this, and this should mean CarlJr will be joining Danik in the winner bracket final, and looking good through the final turn, safing it as he should, and there we go. We have CarlJr and DanikB moving forward into the winner bracket final, but what a match between four amazing players at this stage.
Absolutely, absolutely. We got what we expected to get. The result is a bit surprising, not gonna lie. Danik winning it is something I wouldn't put my money on, but it is a very deserved win. I mean, he was very fast, very consistent, and when it mattered, he was able to close it out. So I'm happy for Danik, for my countryman. It just is insane to me to see how many good players we have in our region, you know, in Czech and Slovakia. Like there's not too many players at all, but all of them are super good. In the previous match we also had Novice, you know. Now we have Danik, Tween, and you know, it's good to know that I'm not the only one to look out for, you know.